Richard III is the sequel to Richard II and is. Wait, hold on. Okay, it is not a sequel to Richard II. I'll start over. Richard III is a completely standalone play that. Wait a sec, what? Alright, so Richard III is in fact a sequel to Henry VI, Part 3, which is a sequel to Henry VI, Part 2 and 1, which all take place after Richard II. Okay, so I was right. Richard III is the greatest antihero in Shakespearean canon. I've never seen a character do something as despicable as killing his nephews, then trying to marry his niece like an hour later. I'm so excited to share him with you. The version of the play I watched is the 1995 film version called Richard III. The film was co-written and directed by Richard Lowencrane, and was also co-written by Ian McKellen. The film is interesting because instead of starring stuffy old white men, it stars Gandalf and Iron Man themselves, Ian McKellen, and Robert Downey Jr. The play is an updated setting in 1930s England and has a lot of fascist imagery, clearly making it a story about a world leader slowly turning a world superpower into a fascist nation. A fun bit of escapism that would totally never happen now. A brief summary of the show is Gandalf kills half the cast. A less brief version would be Richard, Duke of Gloucester, kills current King Henry VI so that his brother, Edward IV, can take the crown. Richard immediately gives a monologue to the audience telling them about how he's going to plan to put his brothers against each other so that he may become king. He has convinced King Edward that their brother, George, Duke of Clarence, is prophesied to kill him, so the king sends Clarence to jail. Richard then promptly marries the old king Henry VI's son's fiancée to gain legitimacy. Edward asks to have Clarence out of jail, but Richard sends assassins to execute Clarence and then tells the king that his message was too late, and now the king thinks that he has killed Clarence, and promptly dies of sadness, as all good Shakespearean characters do. The only people in the way of Richard now are the king's two sons, but don't worry, they die after Richard convinces the world that they are bastards and takes the crown for himself. Richard then gets bored of not killing anyone since lunch, so he kills his wife and then tries to marry his niece. But his niece has been secretly married off to Richmond, who has raised an army to kill the tyrant king. Richard is scared and thinks people are going to betray him, and they do, and he dies. And in the movie, during a battle with Richmond, he corners him on top of a building near a fire, where Richard jumps off and dies in the flames. The end.